The guy I murdered is sitting next to me on a train that isn't stopping. The last thing I expect the afterlife to be was a train full of screaming children. Not my carriage, the passengers, just 5 teens with me, were silent. I knew I was dead the second I opened my eyes, my cheek uncomfortably wedged against a window. I saw my death, blurry vision, my blood-stained fingers, carpet fibers stained scarlet. I died curled into a ball, my sticky hands pressed over the cavern in my lower abdomen, except I wasn't just dead. I was on the murdered carriage. Outside, the sky was cotton candy pink, flying zebras pooping rainbows. Cassia Alistair, a voice spoke over the intercom. The doors opened and a little girl jumped out, immediately running to a sparkly zebra. When the carriages started to empty at a rapid pace, I noticed the blue sky outside start to darken significantly, but subtly enough to terrify me. Every announcement, I was seeing more of my paling reflection in the window. Do you know where we're going? The boy next to me lifted his head, and a visceral reaction rattled my brain, slithers of panic creeping up and down my spine. I saw his face in my memories, his wide, pleading eyes. "Please," he mouthed. "Don't." I saw my hands wrapped around the butt of a gun, sticking it into the gap between his brows. I remember my static pleasure as his brains dripped from my face. Shards of his skull stuck in my hair. I jolted away from him, but he only inclined his head, his eyes wide. I killed him, and he didn't remember. Anna Simmons, 17 years old. Outside, there was nothing but darkness, no shadows, no light, no inclination of anything outside of those doors. I watched the girl who had been summoned walk over to the door, stepping directly into nothing. When the train rumbled on, darkness became something else entirely, something I couldn't comprehend. My face pressed against the window, a vivid blur of primary colors tangled in spirals. "Miriam Atwood," the voice announced my name. 19 years old. I was too scared to move. Invisible arms were wrenched me from my seat and dragging me towards the door. No. I kicked and screamed, trying to throw myself back. Outside the doors was nothing, and yet I could see a single skeletal finger. Tap, tap, tapping on the glass. Once the door slid open, my name was already torn from me, my skin starting to melt and drip from my bones, my body contorting like I was being stretched and squeezed. I wasn't expecting a hand to wrap around my elbow, yanking me back. The other passengers worked to pull me inside, led by the boy I murdered. I tumbled inside, the door slamming shut. I couldn't breathe. "Thank you," I gasped as the train continued. The boy smiled widely. "Well, that's the least I could do," he said, his lips grazing my ear. "After I, killed and cannibalized your parents." Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. I found this little short scary story on Reddit and I figured I wanted to try something new other than just explaining what I'm doing while, I'm doing my makeup, because it's not that hard to just look at what I'm doing. So I figured this was, something different to do. So let me know if you guys like this or not. But I just wanted to try something new. I just realized we had a lot of time left, so this next story is called There is a Strange Man in My Home. The house used to have neighbors, but everyone moved away. I looked out to the back garden and noted the overgrown hedges and the stoic single figure little blue flowers fighting the cold. The forgot-me-nots had been forgotten. I poured a coffee and held it close to my face. I closed my eyes and inhaled the aroma as the cup slightly burned my hands. That nice stinging burn that lets you know you're alive and keeps your hands slightly red for a few moments. I sighed and looked around the kitchen. Everything was a tone of gray, even though the kitchen had been painted white. I laughed. I remembered Susan and I painting this entire room 20 years prior. I remembered she had no old clothes, so she threw on her wedding dress as she didn't plan on getting married again. Her words, not mine. My eyes reddened as I replayed that memory over in my head. The messy floor matched her messy red hair. In fact, her hair was whiter than red that day. In between record skipping, the paintbrushes falling, I never took my eyes off her hazel gaze. I lightly swept my hand over the oak table, like Braille. I could read every notch, nook, and dent. It was a well-lived table. The corner dent was created when my first daughter, Rachel, went backwards into it, a dent in the table to the dent in my savings account, as she was rushed to the A&E and only to be told she wouldn't even need stitches. I rolled my eyes. In traditional families, the man is meant to be stoic and the wife is an emotional wreck. But that day, Susan had 2 babies on her hands. She was iron, I thought. When days went black, Susan would be there to calm the nerves. She would appear on the horizon and with a sentence or two, my world would reset back into place. I walked into the hallway quietly. Photos dotted on the wall, graduations, weddings, birthdays, a trip to New York that Susan has always wanted. The doorbell rang and I raced to the door. An explosion of red hair and bright hazel eyes. It was Rachel. She had her mother's hair and eyes, and my worry. "How's Mom?" I bit my lower lip and opened the sitting room door. I told her to wait in the hallway. In the corner, a frail woman sat, her hair red, but now white. Her slightly empty hazel eyes widened as panic set in on Susan's face. She pointed to me with fear that I will never forget. Please help. There's a stranger man in my home." That's it for the story. I'm so sorry if the audio keeps on cutting short. I don't know what's going on, but thank you for listening and watching. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.